Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Tirza, and I have with me the lovely Megan. She is an artist, an entrepreneur. She sells her art online, and it's really beautiful, and she has a really beautiful story. So I'm really happy to have her here to share her creative journey. So Megan, take it away. Tell us a
Hi,
little bit
thank
about
you.
yourself.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having me. Well, as you said, my name is Megan Carty, and I started my art journey long ago, like many people in the arts did. I was really creative as a kid, age 5 and 6, and I found an old book I had written in first grade. It was like a 5-page book, and it had like an author's note in it, and it said, Megan wants to be an art teacher one day. And I just feel like that was my journey from the beginning until I got older and realized what art teachers had to go through. So I decided, yeah, that's probably not for me. There's a lot of cleaning involved and a lot of frustration and yelling at students. So it's probably not my thing. Um,
hmm
but I decided, early on that I wanted to take the art path. So I went to college, to art school at Syracuse. And when I went in, I was very intimidated by the talent of all the other students. I was a little terrified. I was never like a natural at art. I was someone who always had to work at it. I just really enjoyed it. Um, and I found that, the more effort and time I put into it, the more skilled I became, but it was definitely a practice. Um, so anyway, when I got there, I figured, oh, I'll major in illustration. And then I found out that, I wasn't as technically skilled as some of these other people. And I felt really like out of my league. So I kind of like pulled back that idea and decided to go for like graphic design, advertising. And I focused on that, which I was happy with and enjoyed, and I liked the thrill of the problem solving and coming up with creative ideas. But I know that it was a cop out. I always felt like that little niggly feeling that, I wasn't following the path I wanted because of fear. I think I was just scared of failure or scared of not measuring up skill wise to the other students, not realizing at the time that I could have had my own style and my own voice and it would have been fine. Um, but I just got myself so intimidated that I let the fear dictate my choices. And so I went on after school and focused on graphic design. And I focused on a lot of like small boutique agencies, and I did some corporate work. And I didn't make any art. Like once I graduated, I was done art. I mean, I pretty much had taken all drawing courses, painting courses when I wasn't taking advertising designs classes. And I think I went about 7 years without making anything. Um, and at not having created work for about 7 years was really making me depressed. I had a lot of pent up energy inside of me that just wasn't coming out. It was one thing to spend all day in like a corporate environment doing
hmm
creative work for someone else, but then I would be so tired when I
Yeah.
got home. I would just eat dinner and just go to bed because I didn't have anything left in me.
hmm
But it was really hard not expressing my own feelings and my own ideas. And then eventually, later on down the line, I met my husband and we got married. And I ended up, because we had more of a stable income, because there's two of us, I then left my job and started freelancing. And that freed up more time. And I realized, and that was around the time Etsy launched.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard about it, and I think I joined in 2006, which was like really early on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that I remember how awesome it was because you could list something and get 600-700 views in like a day.
That's like unheard of nowadays.
I know. and
Yeah.
and you would get sales like nothing, and it was just such a great time. Um so I had a lot of fun with that and started making stationery products and things like that. And my creativity started to come out. And I thought, I could really do this for a living. This is so exciting. So instead of freelancing, focusing on corporate clients, I decided to go more like wedding and birth announcements and more creative, personalized work. And I ended up purchasing a letterpress. That was when letterpress became really big, letterpress stationery, and just all those invitations and birth announcements and things. And I just felt really fulfilled by that at the time. It was just something fun I could do, and I was in control. So I was using my creativity, not for someone else, but for myself and my own business. And I felt real ownership of that. And that made me feel really proud, like a certain pride I hadn't felt in my corporate work. And then I still had been avoiding painting and creating anything fine art for myself. I think I felt fear around it, that if I made something, I would have to sell it or I would have to do something with it. And everything felt like it had to be monetized, and I just wasn't ready to go there. And so I avoided it and just felt really sort of an emptiness, but I didn't know what it was from. And that feeling really started to sink into my bones. And around that time, we had decided to try starting a family. And it was really an exciting time. And so we started trying. And then we got pregnant right away. And it was really awesome. And then we found out, like maybe 6 or 7 weeks in, that the baby, we had an ultrasound and the heartbeat was great and everything looked great. And then we went into the waiting room, and it took the doctor a long time to come back in. And we thought, well, what's taking so long? We heard a lot of sort of arguing back and forth out in the hallway, and there was a lot of talking. And my husband and I were like, what is going on? And then a little while later, the doctor finally came in, and she sat down and says, all right, I looked at your ultrasound, and, we found that your baby is implanted in the wrong place in your uterus. And I said, well, wait, what? And she said, it's called a cornual ectopic pregnancy, where it's in your uterus, but not all the way in. It's near the tube, not to get too graphic, but she said basically within 4 to 5 months, it could rupture your uterus and you would die pretty much instantly. And that could happen at any moment from now until then. And she's like, as it grows, it's going to get, she said it's in a weak area that isn't meant to support growing the baby. And I still didn't understand at the time that was like something that couldn't be fixed. I just sort of said, okay, like what can we do?
It'll fix itself.
Yeah, it'll fix itself. Let's move it, And so she said, no. And she hands me a box of tissues, and I'll never forget that. And I just like held the box in my hand and just stared at her. And that I realized, I'm like, oh, am I supposed to cry? Like, am I supposed to get upset right now? And that's when it hit me. And I said, well, you can't move it. There's nothing you can do. And she says, no, like it's in the wrong place and there's nothing that can happen. We have to get this, taken care of right away. And I've called over to the hospital, and you've got to go over there right now. And I thought, what? And so basically it involved like getting some chemotherapy treatment, like injections, and it just basically kills any cell growth that's new in your body. So I had to have several injections of that over the course of like a month in order to get everything to stop happening. And it was probably definitely the worst time of my life.
Yeah.
And similar things to that happened. I had 3 more losses after that. And we ended up finding out that I had like a chromosomal issue where I don't absorb folic acid correctly. And so once we realized what was wrong, I was able to fix it, which is nice. But we went through years of struggle, and I became more and more depressed in that time. And that's when I started creating more fine artwork for myself. I think I just needed to sit down and get lost in a different world for a little while and be at peace. And I think when you're creating anything, whether it's on the computer, with your hands, or building with woodworking, or I mean anything, writing, you turn off a certain part of your brain and it becomes very meditative, and you just time stands still, and it's very, very healing and refreshing. And you come out feeling like you just had a nap. And you end up feeling, at least for me, I end up feeling energized after, and that's just when I needed. So it sort of became a lifeline for me to cope with anxiety and stress and sadness. I just needed an outlet that I could sort of feel validated. I could make something and then show it to someone, say, I made this thing and it worked. And, you know, and I would feel proud of myself. And I think that's how it all started. And then, you know, thank God I went on and had 3 beautiful children, you know, fast forward. It all worked out. And that ended up, it put me on a whole other journey of learning to balance being a mom and a person, and caring for 3 other people, and balance my wishes and desires with theirs. And it's been a real interesting exercise in balancing my dreams and my hopes and furthering my goals, while still having to sort of slow it down and put it a little on hold while they're so young and so needy. And I found that was really difficult to say. I'd had all this trouble having them. It took so long to get here. And now that it's here, I'm having a hard time being in the moment with them. Because my mind is elsewhere, you know, wanting to make things and create things and do, you know, further my career and do these other things that, that women do want to do. But we also have that balance of taking care of our family and everything else. My husband's been a huge help, but he can't help me with my artwork. It's my thing. So I finally decided, after a few years on Etsy, I think I just had a hard time knowing, okay, what am I doing? Like I'm doing stationery, I'm doing invitations, I'm doing greeting cards, I'm all over the place. It didn't feel like I was helping anybody. I was really questioning, what's my purpose? Like, why am I here? What is it all for? They were really deep questions. Like, I didn't want to just make stuff and put it out there and not think about it. I felt like I needed to be doing something more with my work. And I needed to take some time to think about it. And after what ended up being a few years of soul searching and religious, sort of like a religious journey, a little bit, a spiritual journey, I realized that we all are here for a purpose, to help others in some sort of way, using our own experiences and then sharing them.
Yeah.
And, but I wanted that to somehow tie to my artwork. I felt like it needed to have some sort of deeper meaning. And that's when I realized I had been avoiding creating my own work since high school for fear of what others would think, or that it wasn't good enough. And I said, I'm just enough. I'm just going to create it and put it out there. And I think over time, I've seen so many other people doing it, and I felt so jealous of those people. They were all following their dreams and going after their goals. And I thought, well, I could do that. And then I thought, well, why aren't I? So that's what I did. I just decided to start creating one painting after another, and then started offering them for sale. And before too long, like, people started noticing it and liking it, and I'd started to sell it more regularly. And I realized I can really do this and create work that I want to make that other people find interesting. Like, that was like a new concept to me. The idea that, you know, I could be part of that world, just sort of still shocks me. You know, a girl from small town Maine, I always thought I had to move to New York City and like know all these fancy people and no, that's not the case. It's just, you have to share yourself, put yourself out there and be a little bit vulnerable, and other people can relate to that. And I think that that's the key for me, was sharing my story with other people, and just like making what I want to make. And I think that's where I'm at now, is embracing the things that make me who I am, not being sorry for it, and knowing that I have stuff to share with other people. And through that, I have been able to heal my own grief, heal my own depression, heal my own sort of inner turmoil. And when I'm not creating and when I'm not helping other people or sharing my experience, I start to feel those old feelings again. And I realize that I think it's kind of a human need, an innate need to share what we're about. And we all help each other in that way.
Yeah.
Long
That's
story.
beautiful. I love it. Thank you for sharing. And I think that can resonate with a lot of people, and it resonates with me, the moment where, unapologetic about, like, I'm going to do this. I don't care what other people think. And even though it may seem like kind of odd or crazy or, out of the norm, like, I'm going to do this because it's what I've always wanted to do. And, I think that's awesome. And I think that's really when we start to shine. And,
Yes.
the affirmations come one after the other, when we're like, oh, it wasn't so scary after all, like,
Yeah. Why was I so afraid?
yeah.
What was I afraid of?
Right. Yeah. I always wonder, like, what was I afraid of? Now that I'm sitting in this place of, authenticity, it's like, it's not that scary.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that. I just dropped my phone. Hold on. Sorry, my questions are on my phone. Okay. We're good. So in your artwork and, in your creative process, where do you find yourself getting stuck, and, that point of frustration? How do you, take a step back, and what do you do to kind of work through those things and get back to a place of clarity?
I think for me, it's like an issue of flow. I can get stuck. One way I can get stuck with my own work is when I start to go down the rabbit hole of comparing myself to other people. There's nothing that puts the brakes on your creativity more than comparing yourself to others. We are all unique and individual. I mean, we all know that. We all have our own fingerprints, our own thing. And so that's true of our creativity as well. We all have our own voice, and a lot of us have similar things to say, and I think that's okay. But there's no one who's going to say it quite like I do. Just like there's no one who's going to say it quite like he or she does.
Right.
And so we all just have to own what we think and do it our way and stay in the lane. And
Right.
It's as soon as you start to look at other people and say, oh, that's so much better than the way I do it. Once you start doing that, you freeze, and you can't work and innovate from a place of comparison and wanting to be like everybody else, because then you're not innovating anymore. You're following. And when you're following your own lane, you're a leader, and you want to stay leading. And even if no one's behind you, you're still leading your own path. You're forging your own way ahead. And so I think the way to come out of that is to turn off Instagram, turn off Facebook, turn off all the workshops and the classes and all of the different noise and the books and it's just it's like a lot of noise coming from every direction. And it really can impede your own unique viewpoint. And so it's great for those things when you need to get inspired and you feel like dried out, nothing else to say. It's nice to go into those places and get sort of a fresh perspective and be inspired by other people. But then there really does come a season and a time to turn it off and say, okay, like I've had my fill and now it's time to focus on my contribution. And I think you can overdo. It's like everything in moderation. You're feeling stuck. You got to shut off the outside world and focus on what is it that you have to say. And with if you have too much, it's like being in a house and you're watching TV or you have the radio on and there's all this noise from every direction. How are you supposed to pick out the important parts? How are you supposed to hear yourself think? You can't. You have to have some peace and let things come to you. And you have to allow that to happen. And you have to just make space for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Turning things off, I think, is so crucial. Taking away all that noise. And nowadays we have so much noise going on, more than ever before. And so, yeah, it's, it can be overwhelming. And I think we get to a point where we are almost used to it. And so when we do get to a point of, or when we do decide to turn off all those things, it's really quite uncomfortable. And so, so it's like really,
it's like a security blanket. And it's an addiction.
Yeah.
And you get that dopamine hit every time you get a like or a comment, or you see something that's interesting to you, and it leads you down all these like paths. And then before you know it, the day is over and you didn't do anything that you had intended to do.
Right.
And
exactly.
I mean, I used to be so addicted to blogs. Like I had like 20, 25 blogs on the blog roll, and I would sit there and go through, and I thought, God, it's like hours have gone by catching up on everything. And then I would just feel more stressed out and more tired afterward. And I'm like, this isn't energizing me. This is just making me tired, and like realizing that it's sucking the energy out rather than giving me energy. So I finally ended the cycle and like turned it off, and I unsubscribed to everything, and that's that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's what you have to do. And it becomes very uncomfortable, and you're like, okay, now what? It's like,
now what? Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm left with my own thoughts.
Yeah. And it's terrifying. And I think a lot of people don't sit with their own thoughts, and I'm guilty of it too, sitting with my own thoughts, because a lot of them are, critical of my own self, and not always the nicest. And so it's a hard place to be. Yeah. When you can immerse yourself in someone else's feelings, if, you're watching Netflix or reading someone's post on Instagram, it's easier to, project our feelings onto those kind of things than to actually feel. So, but that's where creativity is in that.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So what kind of other things, I'm curious, that you do that maybe are outside the realm of creating your art, that kind of, restore and kind of reset things for you?
For me, I'm I'm one of those extroverted introverts. So I like to go out a little bit, and then I run home. I think my ideal day is to stay in my bed and read magazines. And just like hide from everyone. I do love to go just to like the bookstore, and I browse around and I just look at things and flip through books and magazines, and then I go get a hot chocolate, and and then I sit there and I read my magazine, and that's really all it takes. I feel like a new person. It's funny, my mom always says, well, you can go shopping or go walk around the mall. And I thought, oh, some people love that, but I just can't, like, it's too much noise. Yet again, I end up being more tired. But I find too, like, sometimes I just like to do a different thing that's creative. Like maybe I love taking pictures with my camera, and it's like taking pictures of my kids, or just going around my town, taking landscape photos, and just doing something that's mine for me for fun. I just love to read and just get lost in other worlds. But anything I can do that's just simple, that recharges me. I wish I could say, oh yeah, I go for a run, or I go for a hike and do all this stuff. But it's just like, I admire people that do that, but that's not me.
Yeah, we're all different.
Complain about bugs and so. So it's like, I'm one of those people who loves the idea of camping. I would be the kind of person who like gets all the gear because I fancy myself to be a camper. But then if I were to really camp, I would be crying the whole time about the bugs and how cold I am and how it's raining and this and that. But then I'd go home later and be like, that was fun. And my husband wants to murder me because I like ruined the whole thing by complaining. So I have a definite appreciation for the outdoors, and I like to be around the outdoors. But
well, you gotta come camp in the Northwest. We don't have big bugs to worry about, so maybe that would make it better.
Maybe that's the thing.
Yeah, we just have squirrels and
For the car.
You froze for a second. What did you say?
No, I was saying there's so many flies and mosquitoes in New England. They're there to eat you the second you get out of the car. So it's just like, who wants that?
That's miserable. That's miserable. No, we don't have that problem. So you got to come up here in the Northwest and.
Oh, see, it sounds so nice.
Yeah, maybe I can change your mind. If you're happier one time.
Hey, I've got an open mind.
All right. Yeah, we definitely don't have the crazy bugs. It's, it's cold most of the year, so the bugs don't come out.
Love it.
Yeah. Anyway, why do you think, for you and for, anyone who's watching, why do you think it's like important to be creative, and how has it really impacted your life, like outside of, your artwork and, yeah.
I think spiritually, I feel like humans are meant to be creative on some sort of level. Everyone is going to be creative in their own different way. Right. I think some people are creative thinkers, like a surgeon or cardiologist who has to innovate in the operating room to solve a physical problem.
Yeah.
That is a creativity that is saving someone's life, and saving a family. I think everyone has something to offer, whether through writing, through music. Creating and innovating is what we're here for. And when we aren't sharing those gifts with the world and each other, I think that's doing a disservice to what we're meant to be doing. And I think when you hold on to those gifts because you are afraid, then I think you're letting all the things that shine in you die. I really feel like if you can let go of those and share what you're good at, I think then you unlock something in yourself that you feel like, I found why I'm here. And then it allows other people to sort of feel like they have permission to use their voice in their way and to help other people. And you never know what you're doing is going to help, how it's going to help someone else.
Yeah.
But you just have to do it and try things and put it out there. And I think everybody is inherently creative. And maybe they just haven't discovered how that is yet, but it doesn't mean that they aren't creative. I think some people think, creativity means you're good at art or crafting.
Yeah.
And like my husband is, for example, he's an engineer, and he was like a physics guy. And but he loves problem solving, and that's what he's hired to do, is solve problems and microchips and things like that. And he keeps that whole world going. And I think that is valuable and important. And I think if you're not able to express that internal dialogue that's going on, then what are we here for?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have our hands?
Right.
Why do we have, why do we have brains and the ability to come up with all of these amazing innovations? But too many people silence themselves because they think, oh, that's not for me. And I think the point is we all were given gifts. We all were. And who are we to not share them, and who are we to keep them to ourselves? That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, who are we to keep those things? We've been given these gifts, and we're given them not to hold them to ourselves, but to share them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think sharing them is the expressing of love for others that I really believe we're supposed to be doing. Being tolerant and accepting of everyone, and showing our neighbor love. And I think through doing that, if we all were to share our best selves and the things that make us unique and special, I think the world would be a really happy place. And I think that, to sit on it and keep it hidden and to be ashamed or embarrassed of it is just a real disservice to your individuality and your unique, presence. We have to be proud of ourselves and who we are, because we all are unique. And if you can't express that, then, you're missing out on a whole sense of fulfillment and purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Before we close out, I know it's already been 30 minutes, kind of crazy. Before we close out, is there anything, so to people watching this, some might be, scared to take that leap, like you were, thinking that they're not good enough, thinking that, why should I do something? It seems silly, or they're terrified. So what would you say to someone who's in that place, of feeling stuck and kind of a little bit lost and not sure where to go, but they know they need to do something, bigger than themselves?
Yeah. I think you need to listen to that voice that's inside, and it's maybe quiet and far away, but the voice is there, and that's what's urging you along. You need to listen to it. I feel like that's a deeper voice of something greater than ourselves telling us the direction we need to be going. And I think you can't ignore that. That's your intuition, and that's sort of your guidance to what you should be doing. What is your purpose? And that little whisper, I really believe, is guiding you. So stop ignoring it and saying, oh, not me, not me. Say, why not me? And look to all the other people who are expressing themselves in different ways, and realizing that you have a place in that. And you can't be afraid to let yourself just light up and shine out. And I would say also, you can let your whole life pass you by. Time goes so quickly. And you don't want to look back and say, oh, I wish I had done this, that, or the other thing, and I had never done it because I was just nervous to do it or didn't think that I could. You will never regret taking a step forward, going after the things you really deeply want inside. You need to stop denying what it is you really want. When you can finally admit to yourself, I want this thing, and then you can finally take steps to go forward, you will feel a huge burden lift off of you, and you just feel like a whole new door is opened. So I would just say, stop denying it, go through the door, and it's not scary, and you'll never ever regret it. Don't be afraid. And I've found too, there's a market for everything. I mean, there is space for us all. There's a huge world. There's a bazillion people, and there is something for everyone, and there's space for everyone. And So even if you think, oh, this has been done before, you know, no one's done it the way you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to just stay in your lane, focus on what you're doing, and do it your way, the best way you know how. And don't be intimidated by all the other things. And if every other Tom, Dick, and Harry can do it, so can you. So
Right.
just
right.
like the lottery, if they can win, why can't I?
Yeah, I mean, we're, you know, ordinary people, and just, you know, with this extraordinary calling, and, you know, it's like we're all human. And so, yeah, just remembering that the people that you think are doing great things, and which they are, and but they're also human. And so there's no reason why you can't do those things as well. So,
Yeah, they just got sick of waiting around.
right. Exactly. That's it. Something, you know, catalyzed them to do something about the feeling that they had. And that's why they are where they are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't wait a minute more. You're just going to feel jealous. Get on board.
Yeah. Yep. So true. So I just wanted to say thank you. And then can you talk a little bit more about kind of your business, and then your little gift that you have?
Well, I'm a fine artist, so I paint really joy and colorful fine art original paintings, and I also have large prints created for people who need a lot more decor in their homes. And so my goal is to just basically bring joy to your walls, and do it in a unique way that makes your place feel cozy and like you, and not like everybody else. So that's what I do. And you can visit me at my website, which is megancartyart.com. That's MEGANCARTY art.com. And there you can sign up, and you will get a free desktop wallpaper of one of my paintings. And it'll also include an iPhone, like a smartphone wallpaper in the same print. And then every month I send out like a newsletter, and in it I put in a printable piece of art. So I create something each month specifically for it, and it's usually like a small 5x7 print that you can then just download and print for yourself and frame or hang up or whatever. And then other times I'll do like a greeting card that you can print, or other fun little things like that. Sometimes I'll add iPhone wallpapers that you can change out and stuff. So I just try to like make it fun and like something you can look forward to as like a little treat.
That's awesome.
Yay.
I love that. Yeah. And you should definitely check out her art, because it's beautiful. I spent a long time looking at your art, and
thank you so much.
Yeah, I wanted all of it. Maybe one day I'll have one of your originals on my wall. I'm hoping. So that'd be so fun. And that's one of your paintings behind you, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Right
behind me.
Yeah. So awesome. I love that. Ooh, that's pretty. I love that. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of it's Thursday. I keep thinking it's Friday.
I know. I wish it was Friday.
Yeah. Me too. Almost there. But taking time out of your day to interview with me, it's been such a joy. I've really loved interviewing you. So thank you.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope I had something that was, a contribution.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.